priest across the Glen just to have a brief chat with him about the restoration project. Father Joe, as you know, is overseeing the entire project here. So, Father Joe, I suppose to start off with, are you okay with?
Am I okay with?
Father Joe.
Oh, it's grand, sure. You call me worse when I'm not about.
This I know from speaking to you isn't the first of the projects that you've been involved with from a restoration repair point of view.
In the parish?
Yes.
Oh, you're probably, once I give you a wee outline of what else we've had to do, it'll probably come back into your memory anyway. To tell you the truth, when I replaced Father McGill here, rather unusually, getting on for 10 years ago now, I was the first curate of this place inflicted with the PP ship since the man who built the church, Father Michael Lennon. Father Michael Lennon was from a family who gave their name to Cross McLean, incidentally, if you go back to the Irish. They were originally gentry in this vicinity, and he was a descendant of them, but so what? He was cured here for a few years as a young man, and then he became PP. And he had 42 years as PP. I'll not have anything like it, or I'll be near 100. But I think it gave him his gra to build St. Patrick's. The parish was already 40 years old, and the old church out at the Handball Alley, which you're very aware of, it's very near where you live yourself, and the remnant of it is still part of the alley gable, needed replaced. So he built St. Patrick's. And we still found ourselves, when I became PP, with the original roof, which is now, until we took it off a few weeks ago, 180 years old, uninsulated, which was the conditions of the day. He built that church, opened it in 1835, against a backdrop of immense poverty. The people drew the stones in their own horses and carts from the old Franciscan friary out at Cregan and anywhere they could get it. And they were so keen, it was all voluntary, that they had to make out a route, and they were all arriving at the one time, and not all the horses and carts could get up that slope at the time, so they drew up a route. Anyway, that was the church essentially, which was still there when I became the parish priest. The church you were baptised in and subsequently married in is as Father Lennon built it. Well, when I began, to go back to your question, I commissioned internal condition reports on all three churches by the architect. I'm kind of sorry I did, because I ended up knowing far more than it's good for you to know about each place, which brings me to your answer. So yes, progressively over the past number of years, a lot of work has been done in the parish, not just Cross McLean, but the wider parish as we are of Upper Cregan. First bit was in St. Patrick's, where we stripped the back gable wall here to try and arrest a moisture which was seeping through underneath the big window towards the altar and affecting the mosaic. That was stripped back and then re-rendered. The next thing was that there were various outbreaks of the dreaded dry and wet rot. And the stairway up to the Cregan side gallery was an obvious one. Up beside the organ was another one, and also out in the sacristy. And they were addressed very well by local contractors, in particular Brian Quinn, who did the first job, and Patsy Martin, who did the other jobs. And that was the state of play when last Christmas we were sitting admiring the crib, and there was a drip coming down into the crib. And nobody likes that, but that, when the architect looked at it, showed that the valleys, where you have a transept church, cruciform in shape, the transept cuts across the main length. There's 4 lead valleys there. Not only were they in bad repair, but they had caused wet and dry rot to set into the support beams of the roof. Well, the architect who got up onto the roof with her advisors said that the whole roof needed replaced. I resisted that for a while. I just thought we could fix the offended bit. But she was right in the end, if only by fluke, because once the builder moved in, who has moved in, and he's a specialist in this stuff, he found a mountain of stuff, as you well know, as the chairman of the fundraising effort, that we've had to address since. So, that's St. Patrick's. We haven't had much to do in Glasdrumond. We had to fix the tower where there was a problem. The tower of it is a replica of what was at Ravensdale House. And we literally had to redesign the top of it because the crows were getting in and the pigeons were getting in. Your imagination can fill out the details. But there was a dampness set in because everything got blocked. So we fixed that tower and a few things in Glasdrumond and resurfaced the car park. There's more to be done in Glasdrumond. And then the biggest job was Sheila. Sheila was ready to fall. There's no fancy way to put that. It was re-roofed and the walls strengthened in a major project and internal work done, including a marble-clad sanctuary, with some voluntary help. But that's the three big projects before we reach the current one. It has to be said, Tony, you know this already, we've talked about this before, that you still have two very old churches in which dry or wet rot can set out at will in the walls, because they're solid walls with no damp course. And that's a reality that no contractor can fix. St. Patrick's is actually listed, that's how we got a grant. Therefore you're not allowed to knock it and replace it. In the southern system, Sheila's not listed, but Glasdrumond's listed. So yes, this was far from the first project, but probably the biggest as it has turned out.
It was always said that it was going to be Father Joe was going to knock that chapel down and build a wee...
Always said. There's a thing in the gospel where some head of all says to our Lord, I heard that you were a hard man. And our Lord took umbrage at him believing rumours.
I'm a familiar, I'm just lost in me now.
Well, it mightn't be lost on anybody who heard your question.
We're very lucky in the parish to be three lovely churches.
That's great.
And the three beautiful buildings, the three of them in fairness. And ongoing works is obviously something that's important for buildings that date. One of the important things with this chapel and this phase we're going through at the minute was the fundraising effort, and that was a big charge, and again something that you initiated and got going there. What has your thoughts been thus far on the fundraising and the support to be had from the parish?
Well, yes, I initiated it, but it was in this very room that I looked along the table and said to you, I can't lead this fundraising. I can't serve God and money. I wouldn't have the time or the physical stamina, and that's how you ended up chairman of the fundraising committee, to really seize on your question there and give the straight answer. The fundraising has been very important at two different levels. Obviously, we need a lot of money, and we've ended up needing a lot more than we thought 12 weeks ago at the beginning of this project, for reasons we're all familiar with, and which I have put in a weekly update in the news sheet ever since. And we're getting there, but it's a long road, and you and all your volunteer helpers have done terrific work. I've done a little bit of it myself, so I know how frustrating it is to go to houses several times and the dog tried to aid you, or the owner not there, or maybe he sent the dog out to aid you. But I know what it's like to go back, but a great effort has been put in, and so far so good. Now there's no point in not admitting that we're well short of what we need, but we're not going to starve.
Yeah.
So far so good. The other very important side of fundraising, if you like, it's a side effect, but it's a very good effect. The people are appropriating the project themselves, claiming their church. That's what it is, it's their church, and they're giving expression to their awareness of that by their level of interest, their level of inquiries, the way they talk to each other, and by their generosity. Some people who have very little are doing their best, and other people who have a bit more are doing theirs too. But the fundraising is a joy, it's a bore, it's a hard slug, but to see that, to see the interest of people, I know that almost 700 families have already contributed to your volunteer callers already. A lot of them maybe with unemployment in the house and a whole lot of mouths to feed. But it isn't just that, it's the interest they're showing, and I hope their interest will be rewarded next weekend when we open the doors and they see what they see.
They will be, they'll be delighted, and I suppose even at this stage, Father Joe, the original project was a roof. And we were simply replacing the roof.
It was a roof and what the defective roof had done.
Okay. And even at this stage, do you want to at least give some clue to the people that's looking about what they might expect when they come into the chapel?
Well, we got the inside of the chapel painted twice in my time here. I mean, since I came here in the late 90s as a curate, Father McEntee did it once and then I did it. But we never got the ceiling panels done because they're not on the level wall and nobody would go up there.
Okay.
So I think what will be nice for the people is how beautiful the interior ceiling is right up into the vaults. The reason we have so big a roof is we have 3 high-pitched galleries. It's a bigger roof, as I love telling people, especially Dromore priests. I know it's a bigger roof than Newry Cathedral, which by the way is largely a flat roof.
Yeah.
But I think they'll be deeply impressed with the beauty of the vaulted ceiling and the newly varnished wood panels and the painted panels in between the woodwork. And I also think, I'm not saying much, that they'll be pleasantly surprised at the beauty of the mosaic as cleaned.
Yeah. You have about 15 years maybe to early retirement, and if you're going to catch up with Father King, you have a good distance more. Like.
I had a life before I was a priest. I'm only 25 years a priest coming, but don't be thinking I'm 49 years of age. I might be able to pick up the well-earned pension next summer, and God knows what will happen after that. That's a very leading question when you know the real person to put that to is Dr. Fee.
Yeah. At this stage now, you are coming to the end of this project, and in a week or 10 days, hopefully the church will be open, 2 weeks, whatever it is, the church will be open. What has pleased you most about not just the journey or the end point, like the entire process? What has pleased you most about all this?
I think it was the diversity of people who have gone out knocking doors and the welcome they're getting. Their biggest problem is getting out again.
Yeah.
They're carrying, they're getting a drop of tea, a bun. Even I succumb to a bit of that. I would say the bit that pleases the Almighty most is how much of a personal, vested, heartfelt interest the people have in the project. Just when we're on that, Tony, I want to thank so many people in the parish. About 700 houses have already paid, with lots more asking the volunteers to come back. I want to thank all those people, but I also want to thank people who have shown interest this past 12 weeks until this very weekend that the scaffold's coming down. They were a great motivating factor for us, their level of interest, as well as all the stuff that Des McDermott has managed to get onto the Facebook medium and all the little videos. It has really generated a lot of interest. And sure, the church is the people of God, and sure, it's great that they've all bought into this project, and if they haven't much money, they've bought in with their hearts. The word enthusiasm comes from Greek meaning entheos, which just means God within, and God is within the enthusiasm of all those people, and we're grateful equally to them all. Thanks, Tony.